Good evening, friends and supporters of Waterhouse Vibe channel, YouTube channel. As as custom, our focus is on Waterhouse and Jamaica and what is happening. This week, we have with us a brother man from Waterhouse. A man who most of you might have heard his name in the news because he did apply to become the commissioner of police in Jamaica. And I'm talking about none other than Brother Rattigan, attorney at law, former FBI agent, and a man from, where? I think, who's say Penwood Road. Penwood Road. Mr. Rattigan from Penwood Road. So, welcome Rattigan. And we're just going to go around and introduce yourself so we know who is who and what have you. Let me start with Patrick now.
Well, as for those who never heard before, I actually grew up a good part of my life in the Waterhouse area, actually on Farham Road. And for those who familiar with the area would probably remember the policeman who lived at Farham Road. He was my father. And I became active in the area, doing a lot of youth development work, starting WECO, Welfare Educational Cultural Organization, which, really ballooned into a youth development organization back in the 70s, throughout the 80s. And I guess that's the easiest way for me to identify myself in the area.
Ishmael?
Once again, I want to thank you for having me. I am visibly the youngest, or the one with the least experience among the bunch. Staying true to Waterhouse, I'm still a resident of same. I like to call myself a patriot of Waterhouse and my country. I've been involved in advocacy as long as I can remember. I've been a youth parliamentarian. I've been an active member of Waterhouse, supporting and representing the plight of my peers and the residents. And now I was bestowed by the GG to become a justice, to first serve my community and my country at large. I'm probably one of the youngsters that if you go in anybody's yard and call them name, them can't tell us them know me. And I don't know how and I don't know why, but everybody know me. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But yeah, I've been, maybe because of my work through advocacy, people know me because I always talk to people and I'm everywhere in Waterhouse. So yeah, that's a little bit of synopsis of Ishmael.
Mr. Rattigan.
Yes.
Just introduce yourself so that people know who you are.
Yeah, great things. My association with Waterhouse is a very interesting one because I wasn't born in Waterhouse. I was born at UC Hospital and spent the first 4 or 5 years of my life living in the Whitfield town area. In fact, I left Jamaica when I was 17, and by that time I'd moved around 17 or 18 times. I came to Waterhouse when I was about 5, moved to 41 Penwood Crescent. And
Penwood Crescent, the one by Moscow?
Yeah, across the street from Varma Road.
Okay.
Right. And then at another point, I moved to 39 Penwood Crescent. And then I moved back to Whitfield. Then I moved to Dilston Avenue, 19 Dilston Avenue, right next to a bar. I forgot the man name on the bar. They're right in front of Farm Road.
Yeah, fat man. Wow.
Yeah, Tony. I think his son name, the son named Tony.
Tony
Yeah.
was his son. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'm living at the yard where one of them owned a yard there. One son.
One son. I quite remember.
Yeah, right down the street from the McIntyre them.
Okay.
Right. And then I left there and then go back down at the bottom of Waterhouse, down at 6. And then that was where I spent the last few years before moving to the States. But even when I was living down there, the war started back in 76 and I had to go back over Whitfield Town to live Maxfield Avenue. So I was just constantly moving. And since I've been here, went to Howard Law School and joined the FBI 1987, retired 2017, traveled all over the world, see a lot of things, applied for the police. In fact, when I applied for the police commissioner's position, that was because the High Commission in Pretoria, South Africa, they encouraged me to apply because there was a mandate from the government that they were looking for diaspora members to come back to Jamaica and see it as a place to live, work, raise a family, and invest. And so they asked me to do it. So I did it the first time and a whole bunch of things happened. And then they asked me again the second time and I did it. And the third time was because I gave a speech at Woolmer's and the 6 farmers, they pleaded with me to apply for the third time and I did. And none of those times was I ever shortlisted or anything like that. In fact, I heard that word from up high was don't even interview the brother there, So now I'm practicing law and raising my 2 sons and having a good time, But at the same time, just like Ishmael said, I feel like a patriot, and if there's anything I can do to help, I'll willingly and gladly do it. In fact, I've said it several times that if the government should see it fit to ask my opinion on certain things as a consultant or otherwise, I'd gladly do it for free. Because it's a shame to have all of this information, all of these contacts, all of this experience, and that it can make a difference, but people just, for one reason or another, they just don't want to get you involved. And I've actually spoken to politicians in Jamaica, people that high-ranking people, and they tell me, they said, you'll never get that job. You'll never get a job where you'll have the power to investigate and arrest people, because at the end of the day, a lot of those people, they're involved. And I'm not afraid of locking people up. I mean, I've done it for 30 years, so and then the team that I would bring with me, these guys, they don't fool around. I mean, these guys, they know how to conduct investigations, and because they don't know anybody in Jamaica, that would make it quite easy for them to make decisions. Even if they knew somebody in Jamaica, it would make a difference because these people are above and beyond reproach. But that's my story.
I want to continue on that, but before we move in that direction, Ishmael, what's happening in Waterhouse? What's happening? What can you tell us?
All right, as it relates to stories and major stories, Waterhouse is beginning to feel a sense of normalcy. You see schools reopening, students, being given the opportunity to go back face to face, and that's a wonderful thing. And especially with that comes the opportunity for some parents to earn, because I'm not sure if you know, a part of Waterhouse's culture is people sitting at the front of the gate selling, vending and stuff like that. So, slowly but surely you see that that coming back on stream. Thankfully, for this week and most of last week, there weren't any reported incidents of gunfire. I'm not sure why, but I wanted to stay that way. You see a lot of, get-togethers in the sense of you know. While it is illegal, I think it's something for most people to do. And again, it gives them that sense of normalcy so they can, go about their regular business and have a little fun if that's what they feel normalcy is like. As it relates to the sporting arena, the netball, the Waterhouse has a netball team now, and because of the pandemic, there hasn't been much competition. But in about a month or so, they'll start competing again because the JNA, Jamaica Netball Association, is about to hold a local tournament, and with that, they'll have a chance to start competing again, as I said. In relation to football, for a long while, Waterhouse was unbeaten, but we suffered our first defeat against Dumby Holding, and we drew a match, and then last week we went back to winning ways, but that leaves us third on the table. But an even bigger story coming out of the sporting arena is that you will begin to have fans back in stadiums. So, Waterhouse can begin to start watching their favorite team at, the historic mini stadium over Jerusalem,
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, that's what's happening in the sporting arena. And as it relates...
A question, Ishmael. Does Waterhouse have a female soccer team?
Yes, they do, but there is no competition as it stands. There is no female competition happening in Jamaica right now. I am not sure why. The last I heard was lack of sponsorship. Sherwin Williams used to be the sponsor, but that has since been abandoned. So I'm not sure who is the sponsor now. So you don't. I'm not sure if there is a national female competition going on now. If there is, that is a miss of me, and I'll get the information.
Well, I asked because I know the national team has been playing matches.
Right. Yeah. The national team is, I'm not sure if you know, but about 85 or 90%, just like the national team, are made up of overseas players. While some of them used to play in Jamaica, it's the same thing for the women's national team. Most, if not all of them, are overseas based. They're not locally based. On the other hand, with the Jamaican team, you have a fully functional men's national Premier League. So you can draw players from respective teams. And because of the fact that we're out, you'll actually see about 3 or 4 players from Waterhouse, becoming a part of that setup because we're out of qualification. So they want to give the local based players a chance to be capped with the national team now. Moving on to the news about, I like to call it, help a friend. There are, there's always, people with issues as it relates to them being in need. 2 of which is a lady by the name of Shirley and Mr. Boots. Yes, that's his name. Down at the bottom of Trinidad Road and down on Dill Path. That's down at Capture and on Trinidad Road.
Yeah.
That's for now. One is blind and the other is she has not just a speech impediment, but she has a walking. She has an inability to walk properly and function normally, but she's very willing She's always on the move, but she needs help. I spoke to both of them. The good thing about these people is, they're not afraid to get their hands dirty because they have to eat. But nevertheless, you see the need that they have. So, with that said, I'd like to apply for, well, not apply, I'd like to make it known that if there is anybody that's willing to offer some assistance.
What assistance should they need?
Well, Mr. Boots, he, in terms of housing assistance, he needs that. He needs housing assistance because half of his dwelling has basically no roof. He has no stove to cook on. I'm not really sure how he'll cook because he's blinded, but I guess they'll maneuver. He has, because he doesn't work, sometimes he has no food. And it's the same for Shirley. While she'll, sweep the front of gates and stuff like that for a little change, that is not all the time. So, most of the issues now is relating to housing assistance and getting people actual food, because these people are elderly people. When I say elderly, I mean over the retirement age. So if there is anything that anybody can do, I'm sure they'll greatly appreciate it.
Well, I think for anyone to help, they need to get an idea as to the costs involved and what you guys thinking and how they can, so you need to work that out. But
Okay.
I want to say, I'm glad to hear that Waterhouse is going back to normalcy. I'm really happy about that. And I heard that the police is huge all over the place in Waterhouse. Which
Right, yeah, man. A lot of patrols going on. I was stopped 3 times last week. Because on my way, from work, and I was stopped asking where am I coming from, because it's after curfew hours, or they want to have a search, but apparently when I present them with my ID, they never search me. I don't know why.
And joint police patrol, police and JDF patrol, right?
No, mostly police.
Police. Mr. Radigan,
Yes, sir.
I want to ask you this. Why can't we get our hands around crime and violence in Jamaica? Why can't we? Why this is such a challenge? You are the expert on this.
I draw me out now, Michael. But anyway.
No, I have to. You're the expert. Why can't we get our hand around this problem? Because a lot of money, a lot of lives and all of that stuff, but we're not making headway.
Well, I'd be remiss before I answer the question. I'd be remiss if I never said the following things. Patrick, you know Patrick, know that you mentioned him to me. I know that I look on him face. Yeah, I remember him, man.
You remember now?
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah. And the second thing is that I forget to mention some years ago, Balmo, the famous Balmo G.
Yeah.
Yeah. Regarding the crime situation, it's a multifaceted problem. I mean, there is no magic bullet to addressing the crime issue in Jamaica. Because if you look at it from the recruitment standpoint, if you recruit, and I'm not saying that they're actively recruiting criminals, but if you recruit criminals, you can't really expect them to become saints once they're in. So there's a problem with recruitment, there's a problem with retention, there's a problem with promotion, there's also a problem with salary. I mean, how do you pay a constable 70,000 Jamaican dollars a month, which is the equivalent of about $450 US, and then you turn around in the same breath and say, okay, criminals, although they haven't implemented it yet, but it's been suggested that if you bring your weapons in, we give you minimum $250,000. And as I've said before, if I were a criminal, I would bring in some old rusty gun, collect my $250, buy 2 new guns, and have 15 in my pocket. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And then now you expect to see him $70,000 public servant now to chase after me now with my 2 brand new guns, right? I would add 1 old gun, now I have 2 brand new guns and have money in my pocket. It's a multifaceted problem. It's the idea that we don't really treat our public servants the way we should. People like nurses and teachers. I mean, you don't pay them well enough, and then you expect them to stay on the straight and narrow. I'm not saying that they should engage in criminal activity. It's wrong, and it should be punished. But therein lies one of your problems: the fact that they're not adequately compensated. Like, for example, the FBI. There is no organization without people who go astray. But in the FBI, they have a brand to protect, and if you fall short, they make an example out of you, because especially if it's something to do with financing, and money, because they said, look, we pay you well enough that you shouldn't, they don't allow you to have a second job. That's number one. And you shouldn't be involved with criminal activity. And once you do, they make an object lesson out of you, so that the other people in there, they understand and they realize the consequences of straying from the path. So you have the police, the issues with them. Then you have the issues with training, because I was just listening to Ishmael talk a while ago. And when I lived in Waterhouse, I went to Meadowbrook, and you could see the 2 different styles of policing. Like up in Meadowbrook, rare was the occasion that they would stop anybody and ask any question. And down in Waterhouse, rare was the occasion where they wouldn't stop somebody and ask some questions and put the gun in your chest. And I mean, I've suffered through that, right? So and then you have the idea about, they're selling this thing that they're trying to fight crime, but then they tell you that if you get caught with a weapon, they've tabled a law that says they're gonna make sure you have life. You face a life imprisonment sentence. That's already
20 years.
It's already on the books. It's already on the books. The act of yeah. It's
Can you repeat that? Repeat that for me, please.
Yeah. The
Re-record this part, Michael. Re-record.
Yeah. Hold on there, because I have it. I did that thing the other day, and I had it here. It's the crime. I think it's a Crime Act of 1976 or something like that. And it already calls for sections 24 and 25, if my memory serves me correctly. They call for, if you're charged with possession of an illegal firearm, if it's in the resident magistrate court, you face a maximum penalty of 5 years in prison, $1 million fine, and or hard labor. If it's in the circuit court, you face a maximum penalty up to life. That's already on the books. So
yes,
now,
that came out of the Gun Court Act.
Yeah, but it's still law. It's still law.
Yeah. I know. But from you mentioned 76. That's what came to mind readily.
Just to add a little bit of context. So what you're saying now, Mr. Rattigan, is that the government of Jamaica decided to establish a new ministry called the Ministry of Legal Affairs. And the
Ministry of Illegal Affairs?
Yeah, man. There's a headed by the former Attorney General. So there's a new ministry called Ministry of Legal Affairs. Something.
Oh, Legal Affairs.
Yeah, man. So they're responsible for reforming Jamaica's legal books, or whatever the case is, especially as it relates to archaic laws. And one of the first things that came out of that ministry was this. The same thing that Mr. Rattigan is saying. And it sounded as if it was.
What happened?
Ishmael got frozen.
Patrick, you have any question for?
Yeah. I have a couple of questions I want to raise. Of course, I gotta mention first of all though that I've been trying to remember you, because I've been told I'm supposed to know you.
Yeah.
But I know the family. I definitely know the family, but I still trying to place you directly.
No, man, your face very familiar.
Yeah,
Very familiar. Yeah.
but you're a good friend. You're and I a good friend. Norman Montague.
Yeah, man. No, yeah, man. Now, man, I'm a virgin, man.
Yes. Norman keep reminding me, said, you know, once I see you, I'm supposed to know you and all of that. But anyway, notwithstanding, I've been following you with a number of the interviews that you have done. You know, both, you know, primarily on radio, but and the last one you did with Muta Baruka.
Okay.
Yeah, but here's what I want to ask you though. I don't know how much you can say on this, but what is your take really on the reasons why you keep being discouraged or I guess you can say reminded that you're not likely to be chosen as commissioner. If you can shed any light on that as to why that is.
Let me
That's
illuminate.
one. And the other thing is, I take it that you follow the situation in Jamaica quite a bit, so you're probably familiar with the crime wave and so on, right? But if you can speak a little to what you think could be a possible solution to this crime wave. I mean, arresting criminals is one aspect of it, but that's not the fullness of what really drives the crime situation in Jamaica, particularly as it pertains to the youths in the community. Because these youths can't afford guns. They can't really buy guns. Right? And they certainly don't have the organized ability to import guns. Jamaica doesn't produce guns. Right? So if you can speak to that a little.
All right, let me start with the second one first, regarding the plan to address crime. One of the ways I think, and like I said, it's a multifaceted problem. There's no one magic bullet to it. You have to do a lot of things. But one of the things that they should start doing is to harness all the information that they can get into one central clearinghouse, and that's a concept called intelligence center. And they have aspects of it in Jamaica. For example, CTOC has an aspect of it. MOCA has an aspect of it. NIA is an aspect of it. Military intelligence is an aspect of it. Even the tourism industry, they have something called a resilience center out in St. James. And they're essentially trying to look at emerging trends, look at threats, and try to mitigate them. But they don't know how to do it. What they need to do is house all of those entities and others under one roof. Pump that information in there. Have the analysts do whatever they do best, work with the investigators, develop a robust source information base, and also develop one with the communities at large. And then you start from there. Now, it's a lot, because I actually worked on that in New York, in Mississippi, in South Africa, and elsewhere. It can work. I've seen it work. The problem is trust, right? People don't trust each other with their information. That's why MOCA won't share information with just the general JCF. They'll share it on a need-to-know basis because they don't trust people. They figure that, hey, if we tell them something, they're going to go and they're going to spill the beans. And the people that we're investigating, they're going to find out about that. So that's the first thing they need to do, is come to terms with intelligence-led policing. As I said to you before, you know, they conflate intelligence and information, and they're two different things. If you tell me that Michael has a gun, right, that's not intelligence, that's information. What I do with it will become intelligence. So once I know Michael have a gun, what I start asking around, I start doing surveillance, I start doing a whole bunch of things to confirm the information you gave me, because you might have given me bad information, right? And so once I'm done with it, whatever that final package, that's intelligence. It's vetted information. That's essentially, that's what it is. But they conflict both of them. So the idea of starting with a fusion center or an intelligence center, that's where they should start. Now, I actually mentioned this to the Prime Minister several years ago. I met with him at Vale Royal for about 2.5 hours. And I explained the whole concept to him, right? And nothing became of it. And that's okay. The idea of guns being in Jamaica, think about this, right? Think about this. Based on government statistics, they estimate that approximately 200 illegal guns are smuggled into Jamaica every month. 200 every month, right? The other day, they captured 40 weapons in 40 days. And they start saying, yeah, we are doing a job, blah, blah, blah. Well, if you go by that trajectory, they're supposed to have 365 by the end of the year. Now, look at that, 365, you're going to capture at the end of the year, but you have 2,400. So how are you going to address the rest of them? Plus, you have this idea of ghost guns. And I told them that it's an emerging threat. It hasn't really taken hold in Jamaica, where you can actually use a 3D printer and make your own gun. And that's going to be a problem because there's no serial number, so you can't trace that, right? And as I said, Jamaica don't make any guns. So the question is, okay, where are these guns coming from? Jamaica, and I have the stats right here. Jamaica is 4,240 square miles. But the territorial waters of Jamaica is 90,000 square miles, which means it's 21 times the size of the country. How do you patrol the territorial waters with 2 boats, right? Not only that, they have a JCF guy who's assigned to the Southern Command in Florida, and it's the U.S. military, and their job is to surveil what's going on through satellite imagery, what's going on in the Caribbean and Central and South America. And you remember when that plane crash landed off the coast of Jamaica? How nobody saw that coming? Civil aviation didn't see it coming. The guy who's sitting in Southcom didn't see it coming. The one thing we know is that the cargo was missing, and the people who were aboard that plane, the Minister of National Security said a few days later that they've all left the country. And that was the end of the story. So we have a serious problems in terms of protecting our borders because they have identified approximately 140 illegal points of entry. So just wrap your head around the things I'm saying. You have territorial waters 21 times the size of the country. You have 140 illegal points of entry. You have porous airspace borders and porous land space borders. How do you plan to protect? And if you can't protect your borders, how do you protect your people? Because as I said, Jamaica don't make guns, so the guns coming in from somewhere, right? And what they do, they thumbs up this idea that, oh, it's a diaspora guy sending guns here, and they forget that a lot of the time, up to this point, nobody can tell me that the guns coming from Jamaica, the guns in Jamaica, that they all came from America. Nobody can tell you that. What they can tell you is that the guns were manufactured in America. But in terms of making its way to Jamaica, there are lots of ways people could do it. They could come through the Bahamas, come through Haiti, for example, right? And we know that they cannot protect their borders. So I talk to policemen on a daily basis. And one of them said to me, as a superintendent, he said, look, we've lost the battle and we're losing the war. Think about that. Think about that. Your crime fighter, the person who's there.
A long time ago.
Yeah, the one who's there to serve, protect, and reassure. He's telling you that, hey, we've lost the battle and we're losing the war. So the idea of fighting crime, you need a new plan. In fact, they don't have a plan right now. Oh, here's another thing that people don't talk about. Minister Chang mentioned it last year that he from 2016 to 2022-23, he has approximately 1.1 billion with a B US dollars to fight crime. And nobody's asking where the money is going. Where has the money gone? I have policemen calling me regularly, asking me to send stuff for them, send equipment, right? And I said, but Dr. Chang have all of this money. Where's the money? Nobody, and I've asked it of everybody I can ask of. And to this day, nobody can tell me where the money went, where the money is, where it's going. So the idea of fighting crime, it starts from the top. And if you don't have the will to fight it from the top, then, it's hopeless. Because here's another thing. You have the police commissioner, who was the chief of staff, and he was plucked from that position to serve the prime minister as the first and the only national security advisor, right? He's the first and the only one to serve in that position. When they moved him from that position to become police commissioner, no one filled that position. So you have to ask yourself the question, well, why was there a need to have a national security advisor? And are you telling me then that he solved all the problems and so he moved on to become the police commissioner? And the fact that relationship is so close that, do you think that if there is evidence that the prime minister has committed a crime, that the police commissioner would take it upon himself to say, look, I'm going to arrest you? Highly unlikely, highly unlikely. So for that, what you need is, and we know how corruption is. So what you need a new paradigm for policing in Jamaica. You need fresh people, new people. Yeah, you need people who are not beholden to politicians or anyone. And you need people who are courageous and unafraid. And I offer myself, I'm not the only one, because we have lots of people in the diaspora. I mean, I have friends who, you know, they retired from DEA, ATF, CIA, lots of people who would actually come back home to Jamaica. In fact, when I applied for the position, I had people in foreign countries who said to me, listen, since you want to go back home and help your country, we will provide whatever you need. We will support you. We'll support you with equipment, with funding, with training, with whatever you need. We will come, we will help you. So when I applied for the job, I wasn't coming back to ask the Jamaican government for anything. In fact, I'd do it for free because I'm getting a pension, right? And I'm not greedy. So I was planning to come back and bring my team in. And I'm telling you, the team that I assembled, I mean, these guys don't play around. These guys do not play around. And what would have happened? People in high places would have gone to prison, or they would have been exposed. Because I can't say gone to prison because that's a separate entity of the government, the DPP. I don't know if they would prosecute or but I can tell you one thing for sure: the evidence would be there. And the last thing I have to say is, just before I left the FBI, when I think I had applied like the second time, a guy came up to me, and this guy used to be assigned to Jamaica, to cover Jamaica, a white guy. And he said to me, listen, I have some files on some of the people down there. And whenever you need them, I'll turn them over to you. And he said, there are very few people in Jamaica you can trust. He gave me 2 names of people that you can actually trust. One of them I actually spoke to. But don't think the US government doesn't know what the hell's going on. They know what's going on. But it's just a matter of politics, you know what I mean? You pull your card when you need your card. So they don't need anything, so they just keep it quiet. But when they need something, watch, they'll pull it and they'll say, listen, you're going to do this or else. And that's when people jump and do their things. So,
well, I know what you're saying, pretty well. Yeah.
From what you're saying, it seems like corruption is the major problem.
Corruption is a major problem. I wouldn't say it is the only problem.
One of the problems.
Yeah, corruption is a major problem. But here's the thing. If you start looking at corruption from the bottom up, that's not going to solve your problem. You need to start looking at corruption from the top down. Because when you arrest a policeman for taking money for a motorist speeding, it's only consequential to that particular policeman. It's not going to stop people from doing what they're doing. But if you start locking up the politicians, right? You know what? And I'll have a guy who, I mean, this guy's not afraid of calling names because he knows where the bank accounts are and all that stuff. I'll introduce you to him, Michael. I'll bring him on the program one time. And this is a Jamaican guy.
Yeah.
And this guy will tell you everything you need to know, right? But when you
start, no wonder eat there. No wonder eat there. No wonder kind of eat.
Yeah. We need to hear from him.
Ishmael said no.
Off here, not on the program.
Okay. Because this guy will tell you, he'll tell you where the accounts are. He'll tell you who traveled when, how much money they picked up, where the money is right now. I mean, this guy knows it all. In fact, I represent quite a few of those people right now. In fact, there's one guy who's actually flying up to see me tomorrow because we can't meet in Jamaica. Right, a very well-known businessman who's going through some serious problems right now. But and there's some information out there that you'd be surprised. And the thing about it is that I'm willing to bet you that I know more about what's going on in Jamaica than about 90% of the population. From this
No,
seat where I am
No,
right now.
yeah, man. That's normally how it works.
Yeah, I can tell you, because people call me every day.
Listen,
And it's,
I kid you not, Sir Ratigan. Michael, yourself, and Patrick knows more about what is happening here now, in this case in Waterhouse, than I do. I'm in Livia.
okay.
I'm in Livia. Remember, I
Okay.
tell you now. And part of the reason because of, you know, Uncle Sam has that, I don't know, that effect. So if the case is that, oh my, I mean, if the case is that somebody wants to hear from Michael, they are foreign, just pick up the call, and maybe they think that will put them in their good graces. I don't know, but that's part of the reason. Yep, yeah. I'm sorry, pardon me, like, I go fix it after this.
Yeah, and then if you look at some of the strategies they've come up with, Zozo and the curfews and
Those things are already on the book.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that even if they started out as a strategy, they became a tactic, and a tactic is short term. When you have soldiers sit down on a corner day in, day out, that's not a strategy, because pretty soon them start sleep with a woman in the neighborhood and get them pregnant, and that's going on. And I've driven through some of these neighborhoods with politicians, and we get waved through. They don't stop and say, "Hey, we could check." The guy just raise a man and them just say, "Go on, boss," and we go through. And we say, "What the hell is this?" This is, in fact, the neighborhood, they become more adept at the surveillance program, at surveilling the law enforcement than the other way around. Because far too often I've heard of situations where the police and the soldier, they sit on one corner and they're killing somebody 2 blocks away, because they know that they're not moving. They know when they move, they know when they're not moving. So what happened is that this crime thing here, Michael, it's going to require a serious will on the part of the government to clean house, which I don't think that they're willing to do. I really don't think that they're willing to do. So until that point, we're just going to have to just live with it the way it is. Sad to say, because the idea is gangs killing gang members killing gang members, and so it's like, it's bad man that kill bad man. So we're really, that really not have any effect on us, and that couldn't be it's a terrible position to take, that because you suspect that a gang member killing another gang member, then it's no big deal, because that in and of itself will affect the people in the neighborhood. It will affect the children of those people, who in turn will grow up with vengeance in their heart and all this stuff. And then also look at what's going on with Rural Reed. Rural Reed thief up so much money, and then we wonder why half of the people graduating from high school can't read. We wonder, because they have no resources. The money thief up, the money gone. And you said to yourself, so wait a minute, the one place where you shouldn't be stealing from is Ministry of Education. Steal from Ministry of Agriculture or whatever, but Ministry of Education, you're talking about the future of the country. That's one place you should not be stealing money from. And yet still, money disappeared, and there have been allegations, and he collected a fat pension from JC, and he's still collecting, and he's there, and life goes on. And in the meantime, who's suffering? Not him. Not him. I mean, granted, they're all allegations and they have to be proven in court, but at the end of the day, the money's not there. So whether it's him take it or somebody else, the money's gone. That money could have buy a desk, could have paid teacher's salary, could have buy equipment, could have do a lot of things, extra lessons. We don't have that.
Two things you mentioned, right? Two things you mentioned, which are considered to be, well, actually 3, right? 3 key things, other than the corruption, right? We know the corruption. The corruption is a given, right? We know, as far as I'm concerned, that's number 1, because that is really what blocks every part of progress. But one of the things you mentioned about these different organizational groups, NIA, and you call some other names. These are all local groups.
Yes, they're all based in Jamaica.
Okay.
Yeah, NIA, Military Intelligence, CTOC, MOCA, Resilience Center. They're all in Jamaica.
So are these government bodies, or are they private?
No, they're all government bodies.
They're all government bodies.
Every single one of them.
Yeah, but why the need for all these various bodies?
Well, that's a good question. Look at how many people investigating corruption, right? You have Integrity Commission, you have Trevor Monroe's thing, you have CTAC, you have MOCA, you have a whole bunch of them. And you said, why do we need so many? Jamaica is what? Less than 3 million people, right? 4,000 square miles. Why do we need so many organizations investigating corruption? And let me just pivot a little bit, just to give you a sense of how violent Jamaica is, right? The homicide rate in America, you know, people talk about, oh, you know, you have mass murders and that, but as a population, as a whole of a population, the homicide rate is 6.9, call it 7 per 100,000. So out of every 100,000 people in America, 7 of every 100,000 will die a violent death, right? Will die because of homicide. You know what that rate is in Jamaica?
57.
No, right? No, in Jamaica it's 49.4. For every 100,000 persons in Jamaica, almost 50. You can just point. You just say, look, get 100,000 people and say, count off 50. Uno ago dead. Uno ago dead this year.
No, put this a little more in perspective. Is this concentrated in the urban areas?
Where in America or in Jamaica?
No, in Jamaica.
No, as a country.
Yeah, but when you look at the statistics, right? The actual killings, is it more concentrated in the urban areas or in the rural and?
You know, 20, 30 years ago, we could safely say that it was in the urban areas, right? Like inner cities. But nowadays, it's all over. I mean, I'm hearing about crimes being committed in some parishes where you never even hear a peep about.
Yeah.
I think the only parish right now that's under some control where you don't hear too many killings is Portland.
Portland.
Yeah.
And that is for a reason. That is for a reason. Everybody who's anybody stays in Portland. They cannot have it in Portland.
Exactly. There you go.
Right.
So
the other aspect, and that something else that you mentioned, you touch on, right? If you can expand on that a little. Now, like we say, we know, you know, the most vulnerable group in Jamaica for crime is really the youngsters, right? The teens, right? And this primarily seemed to be, you know, one of the issues which they're just pretty much like Ishmael has indicated, and you point out, you know, even with police stopping youngsters and all of that, right? Is really just to see every youngster as a potential criminal. You know, where this really should not be the case, because again, we're talking about youngsters, we're talking about sons, we're talking about not even fathers, right? For the most part, because most of the crime, the gun crimes, really, you're talking about teens, right? So they're either fresh out of school or not in school, right? Why is this a trend?
It's a trend because we don't understand what we're doing investigatively. And why do I say that? I say that because when there's a thing called knowing your domain, and that's part of collecting intelligence. Know your domain, meaning know who the people are within your sphere of control or investigations, right? And we start out with this. We start out with if you're looking at a person or you're looking at a group, doesn't matter. The same 3 questions you ask yourself is, what do I know about this group? Second question, what don't I know about this group? You know them say, you don't know where you don't know. It's not true. You know sometimes where you don't know. So you say, what do I know? What don't I know? And what am I going to do about it? And if you apply those 3 very easy, simple principles within the context and the confines of an intelligence center, I'm telling you, and also knowing your domain, because I remember when I was in New York, we were required that you have to know the people who live within the area where you police. You must know the people, otherwise you're not doing your job. And the other thing about that is, as an executive, if my people failed, that meant I failed. They didn't fail. I failed. I remember one time I went, we used to have a meeting when I was working counterterrorism. We used to have a meeting every morning at 8 o'clock, all the executives. And one morning, I was in charge of the intelligence group. And I remember one morning they asked about something that had happened the night before. And I said to the boss, I said, yeah, John was supposed to do it, blah, blah, blah. And he said, listen, clear the room. And he sent out everybody and just the two of us inside there. And he said to me, listen, don't you ever mention a member of your team as being the reason why something didn't get completed. He said, I hold you responsible. Now it's your job to hold them responsible, but you do not come to this meeting and pass off your people. He said, you never give up your people, never give them up. You take the ass whipping and then you go back and you deal with it, right? That's how we operate. We operate on the principle that you either knew about what was going on and you did nothing, or you should have known. Either way, you're out. Either way, you're out.
All right. So you just answered my third question then. Question of accountability.
Man, accountability, that's big in the FBI. Big.
Yeah.
I mean, anything that happens, man, it happens on your watch, you are responsible. You can't tell them that the guy, your subordinate, screwed up. Or they don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. And they expect you to succeed because they say, look, we put you in a position of seniority and responsibility because we believe in you. Now, the moment you fail us, we have to remove you and we have to put somebody else. They don't really believe in second chances. So once you get that position, you have to fight like crazy. You have to go the extra mile. If it means no sleep for a week to get some information, that's it. That's what you have to do. But they don't have that in Jamaica. Look, how can you have a policeman who you call your police commissioner? You make him the highest paid police commissioner in the history of the JCF. And the guy's falling down flat on his face. And then the prime minister is going to say, I have enough confidence in this guy. In private industry, that guy would be fired.
Mm-hmm.
He'd be fired. You make him the highest paid guy. Listen to this. While you're making him the highest paid guy, you have your constable still making 70,000 Jamaican dollars a month.
And that's the note I want to.
Yeah.
Truly, can we talk about crime solving without talking about economic and social justice in Jamaica? Can we really talk about that? Because income inequality in Jamaica is a major issue and nobody talk about it. Nobody want to talk about that, Can we really talk about, there's no discussion. There's no discussion, and a lot of these youths are driven into criminal activities because of, one, what they observe, the struggles of their parents. So most of them said, listen, I'm not going to I'm not going into the formal economy. I'm just going to hustle. Because I see my dad work in a factory for 30 years, and when him still living in a rent house. You understand? So the question of justice, economic justice, social and economic justice must be on the table also.
Well, the thing is, who's going to raise that and who's going to listen to it? And also, don't forget that there's another piece. There's a piece, you can add this piece to the fact that you watch your parents work in a factory for 30 years and they still have a rent house. You also have youngsters look at some of the corner boy them and look on the down them and see that, hey, they never work in our factory for 30 years, but he make more money in a week than my father make in a year, right?
Of course.
And him have all the girls them, him have all the trappings of success. So why should I batter my head and try and make a future working in a factory? No, and there is also the idea that some of these youngsters, they're fatalistic in the sense that they don't see themselves living a long, healthy life. They see themselves living a fast, quick life. And some of the ones that I've talked to them like, hey, me not live past 30. Some just live and do what I have to do. And there's no care for life. They have no real sense for their fellow man. in terms of protecting somebody. And if it means that somebody have to get dust out, somebody just get dust out and life moved on. And then when it's their turn, it's their turn. They almost just put their hands up and say, I'm just going to live a fast life and live it as fast as I can.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody wants the fast life, but I don't get the sense that people wants to die. Everybody wants the money now. Everybody wants the girls, the liquor, the weed.
Well,
No.
that's the fast life.
Yeah, I mean, but die?
Yeah, man. Let me tell you something. I must introduce you to a police friend of mine. Him said that what them do now, when them go to funeral, them have badges where they make up of them friends, right? And them talk and say, boy, when me dead, them want my badge bigger than my brethren badge and prettier than my brethren badge, you know. And it's like them talk about it as if I'm ready to go. You know?
Like they're looking forward to it.
Yeah, you know, them just I mean,
let me share something with you. In the 70s and up to 83, cocaine, I started to see cocaine, the movement of cocaine, through the recording studios and certain corners you go. And the main guys who were distributing cocaine that time were Chinese Jamaicans. Whether they live in Lee's Flat or what have you, were Chinese Jamaicans. And at no time did one of them brought before the court. What you observe is the black youths, man like Gregory Isaac and others, they were pulled before the court because of the drugs. You know, so in terms of the approach, I agree with you. We have to start from the top. We live in a society.
Not here. Not here. And I'll say this. Michael Manley has 2 books. His autobiography and a book called Up the Down Escalator.
Yeah.
I'd recommend anybody to read those 2 books. It shows you he in his autobiography he outlined, you know, how Jamaica can be a powerful nation. And I've seen, and you hear people talk about it all the time. I've seen where Singapore used that same model and they're a flourishing nation now. And I'd go out one further. Singapore had a minister of defense, and he was a minister of defense and youth at the time. Back when I was a youth parliamentarian, he came to Pegasus and he gave a speech. And somebody asked him, how do you solve crime? And he laughed. And he said, I was waiting for somebody to ask that question because I see everybody trying to nab the small guy. Why it is good? Because you get another guy off the street. He's not the one with the economic power. If you want to stop crime, as Rattigan said, you lock up the politicians and the men in power, because what that will do is that will send a message to people like me and my peers and whosoever is on the lower end of the pendulum, that if he goes to jail, don't think twice if we're not going to send you to jail. But as it relates to now, because we're not seeing anybody going to jail, we think corruption is entrenched inside of our being, but it's really not.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, man. So I believe I believe Rattigan. If we decide to start, if one politician goes to jail for something he did, that will open the floodgates.
It's a serious problem. It's a serious problem. Yeah. When you go into the courts, you see it's just black youths, male, all before the courts. But I've yet to see a Chinese Jamaican or a Jewish Jamaican or some Jamaican from uptown all before the courts. And that sort of set up a sort of dynamics in the society. You know, the state come down hard on us, but they are easy on the other person. And then the policeman, I want to say policing in Jamaica is a difficult job. To be a policeman in Jamaica. You know, to be a policeman in Jamaica is a hell of a job, and I lift my cap to them, you know, despite the corruption and what have you, because it's not easy.
Well, the corruption in the police is not anything new. I mean, this is something that goes way back. I mean, like I said, my father was a police officer, right, for 33 years before I was born, actually, right? Because when he joined the police force at the time, he joined it in 1939, the same year when World War II broke out, right? And they needed, you know, they were recruiting like crazy because they were recruiting for soldiers to go overseas, and they were recruiting for what they call for national security, right? And that's what made him go into the police force, because he was a teacher there. And one of the things my father has always drilled into me was, I can be anything, but not a police officer. And he never explained to me why. He never did explain to me why. I had to come up with my own ideas as to why he said that. And my idea why he said that was the corruption. Because when I look at how my father moved as a police officer, right, he carried himself in a certain way. And he was really into the regular scheme of things. Right? For all the years I knew my father as a police officer, one time I see him with a firearm. One time. As a policy, he never keep a gun in the house. Right? And I saw him with a firearm once. And the only way I saw him with that firearm is because he was on duty. It was a state of emergency. This was back in the 60s, late 60s. Because my father retired 72. Right? When my father retired, I was in senior high school. I mean senior high school. Right? And the only reason why he had the gun is because he was on duty. It was a state of emergency. Right? He was on patrol and him stopped by the house. Right? That time I was shocked. Because I said, I've never seen this before. Right? So when it comes to corruption, corruption has been in the police force for quite some time. It's just that it was never at this alarming level.
And that corruption is why brother man like Rattigan, they will not open up the doors to have individuals like him.
Right, because there's no integrity, really.
Yeah, they don't want brother man like Rattigan to be part of the police force. Because, again, he's a straight shooter and a lot of things going to get turned off. As him say, start at the top. They don't want that. They come out and say nice things. Mark, listen, man. I've heard some stories about some commissioner, a particular commissioner, coming to America to collect drugs money. A certain commissioner of police, certain superintendent of police, coming to America to collect drugs money. And I'm like, whoa. And these are the folks who are telling me this now are former police officers, you know. You know, I amongst them and say, I talk great about this individual. And I'm saying, come on, man. That man, come on. And as Ratty can say, you know, them Americans know what is happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They know everything what is happening.
Well, it's like you mentioned with the cocaine. Cocaine is really a society drug, you can call it, right? Society, cocaine is not really a ghetto drug per se, right? So that's why you tend to associate it more with the Chinese and whoever, right? Because it's not one of them. It's not weed. It's not like weed, which weed is commonplace in the inner city, right? Cocaine is a different level. That too is not even a Jamaican drug, right? It comes through Jamaica. So again, you're talking about organized crime,
Mhm.
right? So that is really the crux of the matter. None of these things that we're talking about is happening from the bottom up, right? Just as Wilfred said, it's definitely a top-down situation.
Let me give an example. All right. Bootleg cigarettes. Right. They come to Jamaica by the container load. Right. You think is a man a Waterhouse to finance that? A man a liquor shopkeeper Waterhouse might be selling packs of these cigarettes, but him is not the one financing the purchase and the transport and the distribution of them things in Jamaica. And the other thing is the Ministry of Health, they haven't even researched these cigarettes to find out what the contents are, because a lot of things coming from China. We know that they're not putting, in fact, I have a friend of mine now from Ivory Coast who he does a lot of trading with China, and he was telling me that they have 3 standards when they make a product. They have a standard for Europe, they have a standard for America, which is the highest standard, because they know that if it doesn't meet a certain standard, they won't allow it to come in.
Right.
Standard for Europe is a little bit lower. And the worst standard they have is for Africa and the Caribbean and the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And they send all kinds of food products. They sell all kinds of cigarettes and stuff like that. And I keep asking, who's responsible for bringing these things in? And like you said, it's somebody up top.
Yeah.
And one of the things I had mentioned, and I think they heard me, was that I said, look, if I become police commissioner, one of the first things I'm going to do with my team, I'm going to go back for the last 5 to 10 years, look at all the donor nations, donor organizations, individuals, donor countries, and say, okay, how much money did these people give to Jamaica and for what purpose? And I'm going to bring in my forensic accountants and make them trace the money. And one of the things I said was, because I know where some of the money there right now. And what I would do, I'd just call the politician aside and say, listen, here's what I know. In your constituency, they don't have a clinic. The schools are dilapidated. The roads need fixing. People need work and stuff like that. So here's what happened. You have this account.
When you call me, I love to make one of them call me.
So I tell them, say, listen, here's what we're going to know. We're going to take this money out what we'll find on this account for you, because you cannot explain it. And we know where this money come from. And you're going to build all of them things. And we're going to even give you the scissors so you can cut the ribbon at the ground opening. Because if you don't do it, we're going to take the money and you're going to prison. So we are trying to see a face with you and make you be a good guy. Because a lot of the money is in Antigua, Bermuda, St. Lucia. We know what the St. Lucia. Mm-hmm. I have a funny story for St. Lucia, but like I tell you, this one guy, Mike, I'm going to introduce you to him, Michael. And I mean, this guy, you probably don't want him on your program. You probably just want to talk to him one away. Because this is a guy who's not afraid. He call names. And this guy was in the Jamaican military. He was in the U.S. military in intelligence, and he was a member of the intelligence community in the U.S. And this guy, I mean, I know he's a member of a group that's sponsored by the U.S. government out of Washington. So he knows everything that's going on in the Caribbean. Ask him about any country.
That's the man I would like to talk with.
Yeah, ask him about any country in the Caribbean, and this guy can tell you any country. He can tell you who are thief money, who are run coke, who are do this, who are do that, where the money is, and all. He know all of that stuff.
You know, it's ironic. You said that, Sir Rottigan, because I've always said to myself, politics is not evil, but people in politics do evil things. And because of that, that notion, I said to myself, because I know what politics and policies can do, I want to go into representational politics. But no, yeah, I'm afraid, Papa God, no.
No, here's one of the things. Here's one of the things that I'm very concerned about. Very concerned about. You don't have anybody from Waterhouse representing Waterhouse. Yet still you have some brilliant people come out of Waterhouse and still living there like you.
Yes.
And what I would like to say, I would like to say the politicians take somebody like you and groom you. And say, well, we are grooming you to become the next leader. What they do, they groom them own children and them own relatives. I tell you what, when back in the 70s, remember when I used to have all of the political warfare with the Yap song and the people on our side, and I almost got killed at one point because of that. And I just happened to meet some people over the last 10, 15 years And when I come Jamaica, we go up na the hills. And when we go up na the hills, I mean, look, me say, PNP and JLP, I drink scotch. Them I eat, them I laugh, them I talk. And when we start ask questions, find out say them related to each other, them go to the same lodge, the same church, them kids go to the same schools. And Parliament is just a charade. Them come down here and cuss each other for our entertainment. And then them go back up and then them socialize with each other. I said, but we just like pawns. Because we down there and we have fight for them people and all them stuff. And them don't really mean us any good. No good at all. I remember back when David Core used to represent Waterhouse, the only time you see David Core is just around election time and come with a truck full of chicken. And then that's it. You know, you're not more from the chicken and get out again and people vote for him. And that's it. You know, I would like to see the politicians them take somebody like Ishmael, for example, and say, listen, we have an office and we're going to groom like 2 or 3 of you guys and girls so that you can understand how this thing works and you can get involved in it so that you can become the next leader of the community. I don't like the idea that we always have to have people from uptown represent us downtown as if we don't have no sense. We can't think none of that stuff. And it's high time that they start doing something like that.
Yeah, but then we understand the reason why that doesn't happen.
Yeah, well, I tell you, I'm speaking
share with
about
us the reason.
Huh?
You want to share with us the reason?
Well, the reason is the corruption. I mean, you know, Wilfred said it. It was never about the people. It was never about the development of the people, really, right? And even to what we talked about last week in terms of what's happening even within the PNP right now, right, with infighting and all of that, right? It clearly has nothing to do with the work that they are there to do. It really has more to do with their own self-interest.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's really what's spoiling everything.
Mm-hmm. But somebody have to talk about it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Somebody have to talk about it and wake up the masses, because if we don't, it just perpetuates itself and it just continues, and then we accept it. No, my father, your father, we accepted them things, but we not accept it. So we have to talk about it. And every chance we get to talk about it. And I mean, people even tell me now, say, boy, when you come out Jamaica, boy, we have to make sure we have a security detail around and stuff. And it's funny, when we come to Jamaica, it's a politician them hang out with. It's a politician. There's one of them, anytime he come, he actually come and meet me at the airport. I'm there around him. And just by being around him, I start understand how them think and why them act the way them act, you know? And yeah, and once you start, also a lot of them come around me because them figure them can learn something. But them not realize that while them I learn something, me I learn something too, you know? And that was part of my training. So I mean, I worked undercover for years. And you know, for years I was somebody else other than who I was. So
Ishmael, where you put Mr. Hilton with what he's saying? Or you put you rate Mr. Hilton with that?
The last time when you do that to me, The last time when you do that to me, I get that tongue lashing.
No, I ask you. You know, guys, Waterhouse, and I shared, you know, my view on that, you know. It's a long time.
Yeah,
it's a long time I've been advocating, you know, that we need to have representation from among us.
Ishmael, don't want you put him on the spot.
No, man, no, that's not the case. Michael, no, we're not afraid. I was just making gist. Well, the truth is, I am not going to put all the blame squarely at Mr. Hilton's feet. But I am going to say, though, I think he needs, you know, as Ratigan says, some fresh blood around him. Too often you have the little people in the gimme, mine, take kind of people. And that takes away from what he's trying to achieve. If it is that he's trying to achieve a future forward development and you know, technology driven constituency, then he needs to have people that are like-minded. You cannot have, for argument's sake, Patrick, where all Patrick do, I sit down and wait till Hilton come and sus with him. It makes no sense, right? So I mean, because I can say because I worked with him, he has done a lot since just about 2 weeks ago. He was lobbying for about 2 years to get USF to fund community Wi-Fi inside of the constituency, and that is now a reality. You can walk to certain spots in Waterhouse and get free Wi-Fi. You know, it's the original use for it is so that students can go to school and stuff like that because of the pandemic. But nevertheless, it's here. So having said that, I mean, if it is that he needs the help, he should know. He knows where to go and find the help. That's all I'm saying.
Well, let me say this. Let me say this. Whether it is policing, crime and justice, or what have you, it comes down to one question, or one issue. As long as we remain disorganized, the politicians and all those folks will get away with a lot. They know that we are not organized. And that is what is going to turn this around. Jamaican people have to get organized. Without the organization, the things, we have to get organized at the community level and at the national level. Organization have to be the key.
But for organizations to happen, you have to be organizers.
I mean, it's ironic that you guys say that, because I really don't think it's not that the people don't want to be organized, but there is nothing to be organized for. There is no cause. So I'd want to say people has lost faith.
No cause? Are you
their
serious?
Because of that.
Are you serious?
No issue.
Yeah, man. People want to be organized, man. People want to be organized. I'm telling you, they want to be organized. But what is there? What is there? And I mean,
everything that we have been talking about is around around the causes, right? Why there's a need for organization,
right? And I'm saying that, you know, the citizens know, but it is not the what, it's the who. So for argument's sake, if Michael Nita decides to come and
Ratigan, what do you think?
Here's what I think.
Yeah.
You and this is one of the lessons I've learned over the years. You do not congratulate somebody. You do not congratulate somebody for doing their job.
No.
Thank you.
Well, if you're given a task to do and you do it, you shouldn't. If people have to congratulate you, that means that you weren't successful previously. You weren't doing anything previously, and so now they congratulate you, right? So that's the first thing. You don't congratulate a politician for doing anything when he was put there to do something in the first place.
That's my view.
The second point is, I would like to know if when he has his town hall meetings, if people come to him with a priority list and say, look, Mr. Politician, Mr. MP, these are the things affecting our lives in our community. These are the things we would like to see you fight for us in Parliament. Do they do that, or do they just wait for him to do something, or they come out individually and ask for things? Because like Patrick says, you have to have organizers, right? And the way to go about that is you have to have leaders amongst yourselves, like you, Ishmael, for example, right? You can have a group together and say, okay, what do you guys want to see Mr. Hilton, for example, Mr. Hilton, what do you want to see him do here?
These are things that I've done before. Myself, with Constantine, we've done this. Yeah, man.
Right. And how many things
that we have done?
Yeah, but hold on, Ishmael. Ishmael, if you can just allow him to finish.
Yeah, the question I want to ask you is, how long he's been the MP for what? 3 terms?
20 years.
How long?
3 terms.
3 terms.
3 terms. Almost
3
20
terms.
years.
20 years, you said?
Going into 20 years.
Okay.
Going into
No,
Really?
the next election.
yeah. No, listen to this. I was down in Waterhouse a few years ago, right? Right at the corner of West Bay Farm Road and Penwood Road.
From
And I actually,
2003, I think.
yeah. And I actually drove down, right? And passed my old aunts and everything like that, down all the way to Spanish Town Road. And I must tell you this, it no look no different than when I left. In fact, it looked worse than when I left in 1977. So the
Worse.
question then, in 20-something years, ask yourself the question, what has he done? If he put Wi-Fi in the neighborhood, that's good. He's supposed to put Wi-Fi in the neighborhood. But what about the roads? What about medical facilities? What about housing? What about jobs, job training? What about all of those things? Maybe I did have maybe my dark glasses could never allow me to say the changes that were made. But when I look, I said, Jesus Christ, I said, this place I look worse than when me left here. And him there for 20 years. No, man, a time for him step out, man. We cannot congratulate a politician because him do one thing, I'm the two things. You have to look at it in a collective manner and say, okay, how has he improved the lives of people over the 20 years? How? One of the hallmarks of a leader is presence. You must be present, not just physical presence, the way you look, but you must also be present in the neighborhood, right? So that people can, and that's why I would show my support behind somebody like you, because you know what? You know the pulse of that neighborhood, right? You know the suffering, you know the pain, right? You just start talking about people who need help. Mr. Hilton can't speak about them subjects intelligently and knowingly the way you can. I would rather throw my support behind somebody like you and hold you responsible than him. Nothing against him, we're just looking at performance. That's all we're looking at.
But to that point on performance, and matter of performance too, right? The way to measure a politician and his performance is looking at his work term to term, right? I mean, if he has been in there for 3 terms, for example, right? It has to show a pattern in terms of what has he done the first term, what has he done, following up on that in the second term, following up on that in the third term, right? I mean, without that, what's the point?
Yes, I agree. And it's supposed to be an improvement term after term after term.
Exactly. That's the only way you can measure him.
Yeah. He's supposed to have a priority list. The community is supposed to give him a priority list and say, Mr. Minister, we expect this from you, and we need a report, whether it's monthly or every 3 months or 4 months or 6 months. You guys set it, because at the end of the day, guess what? This is a difficult concept for Jamaicans in general to appreciate the fact that they are the government. You have the power. You're the one who select these people. They're beholden to you. Instead, we look on it the other way around. We look on politicians as kings, right? And we forget that our vote put them there, right? And so what we need to do is say to him, no, we need a report from you as to what you're doing in Parliament, because we can't follow all of the parliamentary sessions. So we want you to come and give the community a report. I remember I said a leader must have presence. He's supposed to enter the community and him supposed to have at least one meeting every 3-4 months with the community and give a report and say, this is what I'm doing, and this is what I've done, and this is what I plan to do. But when you just show up and you put a little Wi-Fi right or so, and people say, yeah, man, we have Wi-Fi, and we say, okay, you have Wi-Fi. 20 years to get Wi-Fi. What else can I get from him? I was on Dilson Avenue the other day, and Dilson Avenue was similar to a bunch of places I've been to where the roads are craters. They're not roads. You have more holes than you have flat surface, right? I said to myself, but what is this? What is this? There's a sense of malaise. There's a sense of hopelessness in the community.
Yeah.
Granted that there is no, I'm thankful that there is no violence over the past 2, 3, 4 weeks or whatever. But at the end of the day, you have to prepare for this to happen, it flare up again. Because like Mike was saying, social justice and development and economics, at some point, people have to go teeth. You have to go teeth.
Yeah.
Because there's no other solution. We look to politicians as saviors, and they're not. So far, they haven't saved anybody. They're not saviors.
Right, absolutely not.
True. That is so true. I mean, I've one of his mantras is education. If nothing, I can say with all the members of parliament that I've been in contact with, this man believes in education.
So,
And-
so with education, then, what is the education program like?
Right. So I'm not sure if he has a program. What he does is he foots the bills for students to go to school, be it high school, university, and I'm talking about thousands of students. The bill per year is about $9 to $13 million. Every year he sends, constituents to school. While that is good, I'm realizing that people need to feel and see the effects of these things happening. And I tend to agree.
Let me ask you a question. Do they have like a nutrition program for kids so that they can eat at school and stuff like that when they come in? Because kids can't learn upon empty stomach, right? They have something like that.
Well, they'll tell you yes, but because I've been through the system, I'm going to say no. They'll tell you yes. The diplomatic answer is yes, because you have the PATH program and you have, these other programs in terms of how it operates, but no.
So what? Yeah. Why you say no?
Because I've been a part of the PATH program, and 2, 3, 4 days no food, because I'm gonna tell you say a PATH program in the fund. So stay one side until we finish sell, and then we'll give you some food.
Let me ask you a question. Is this the same Hilton who went to school in DC?
Yes.
All right. Is this the same Hilton who is involved in maritime law?
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Is this the same Hilton who came to Jamaica broke?
I don't know if it was broke or anything.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right. Because I know people who know him personally, and there are things about him, like all the politicians, they have secrets, right? And there are things about him that I can tell you that you would be shocked. You'd be shocked.
Michael, get me this man number now, please.
You'd be shocked, But the thing again is, look, we all are imperfect, right? But at least you give people credit when they're doing something and they say, okay, I can see where this person is actually trying. And to me, yeah, it's nice you can pay the school fee and all of that, but where's the plan? Like Patrick says, what the plan? What the education plan? Just paying for school fee, that's not the education plan.
Not at all.
Radigan, I've been asking for a plan since the first day I met him. I was saying, where's the plan? But you see what happened now? Mr. Hilton inherit a community disorganized. The leadership, those of us who used to provide leadership, we are no longer there. It's just a small group. So he comes in and he inherit that. And the level of consciousness is not as high as in the 70s where we would ask questions and what have you. You understand me?
Right.
So the politician is taking advantage.
The man is the street.
Yeah. And that's why forum, channel like this, that's the purpose we start this thing, because we want to shed light on them.
Yeah.
Let them understand, say, listen, if you get $40 million allocated to you a year time, then you need to come and tell us.
After account for the 40 million.
After
account for it.
Yeah. That don't happen.
Yeah. So if you spend,
because if it's spent, you waste the result.
Yeah. So if you get 40 million and you spend 9% to go to school, one to the next 31.
Well, his answer would be, listen, it's not just Waterhouse I deal with. I have to deal with doing the park. I have to
do the accounting then.
Talk for all of them. That's part of the accountability.
You know something? You know how many people, I can't begin to tell you how many people have come to me and said, listen, you need to come back and take over that seat in a Waterhouse and run the place.
Yes.
Whole heap of people tell me that.
Yeah.
Whole heap of people tell me that. So even friends them tell me that. They tell me say that man are useless. You need to come. In fact, some of them even use the term waste man. Them say you need to come take over this place here and run this place here, because them say, listen, we know you have our interests at heart because you come from down here and you come now with a ton of experience, not just in America, but you come with experience from Africa, Asia, the Middle East, North America, right? And there's certain things that you can try. There's certain experience that you have that them don't have, and they will never have it.
Never have it. I mean, thank God for the FBI. I mean, some things when me learn, some people me meet, and some things, the experience level when me have, especially government, because like me, I tell the people them that on CVM, when they talk about security and stuff like that, me say, listen, let me tell you something. Me sit down at the table when the sausage they are make. Me know the ingredients that go inside that, right? Me used to make decisions about countries when me sit down at the table, I represent the US. And I did that for many, many, many years, all over the place. So that them say, listen, them don't, what happens is that the Foreign Service, for example, is run by a comedy crew. They don't know, they don't have a clue how to approach the US government and other countries when you start talking about policies and things like that. And you start asking for aid and things. They don't know how to do it. They don't know how to do it. And I've sat at the table like this is something we used to do day in, day out.
You and I need to have a discussion after the year. So we can talk.
I mean, Mr. Don't let me and I know, and you know what, Mr. Don't let me make decision about who are gonna live, who are gonna dead, who are get this amount of money, who are get that amount of money, who are gonna this, who are gonna that. I'm gonna sit down there and sometimes I pinch myself and say, I can't believe it come on from Waterhouse, sit down at that table here. And people ask my opinion. They must say, well, what do you think about this? I'm gonna sit down there and I say, I can't believe it. I'm me sit down here. So
well, I hope you're seriously thinking about going back home.
Why, brother?
Seriously, because
no,
when you're ready, make me talk, my brethren.
No, hear me, Wando.
People might cry out for leadership.
No, hear me, Wando. This is Ishmael. Ishmael is a prime example of what Jamaica could be.
Yeah.
Somebody like Ishmael, we need to stand behind him, support him, and say, we want for honesty. And if we can start out with just him, and then move to another Ishmael, different communities, then I think we're onto something. But as long as we have Ishmael sit down in the background, and if you kind of provide support to somebody like Hilton, who really don't know, him don't know what I want. Him don't know what I want, don't know if I approach a problem. I guarantee you right now, if you sit down with Hilton and you sit down with Ishmael, and you say, look, we're going to discuss the issues. I guarantee you Ishmael going to be able to deal with the issues better than Hilton. He's going to look to Ishmael and say, what going with that question? Or me answer that question there. I don't know.
Yo, I know you call me here, you know.
Ishmael are the real big one. Ishmael supposed to.
No.
Ishmael, your relationship with Mr. Hilton mash up now.
Are you not sure my support behind Ishmael? You not sure. Me a old boy right now. Me have two little youth me a mole and a grow. Me have two little soldier right so now. And it's like, you know, them take up all of the time when needed, the time when me say, okay, me here for my time. I'm here for my expertise and all of that. That time they come and pass. And one of the things about life is that you have to be able to understand when your time come and gone. And don't keep chasing after it. And my time for the police commissioner, it come, it pass, and it gone.
Oh, come on,
yeah,
man.
Somebody else. I wouldn't mind.
I salute
you. In our seriousness. I
salute you with that. Seriously. Apart from the issues we have in Jamaica, and not just in government, but in Jamaica on a whole, is people tend to hold on to things when they know so them time passing, man.
Hasn't got right.
Yeah, well, Ishmael, this is why I want to say in all seriousness, right? I mean, you might laugh and think when you hear Wilfred say them thing and all of that, but that's pretty much the way I see it. That's pretty much the way Michael see it, right? I mean, we're not looking for a position out of this.
I agree with you guys.
No, hold on. I want you to hear me out. I want you to hear me out clearly, right? We're really not looking for anything out of this as far as running for the office or getting no position and all of that, right? What I really is interested to see is to see development take place in a community, right? And we look at you as our point man right now. So right now, what we are saying is that we already are standing behind you, right? To give you whatever support we can give you, right? From our experience and you know, and so on, right? To really support you for the fantastic work, right?
Well, on that note, let me say this. Ishmael raised with me the idea of starting a health fair in Waterhouse, having a health fair. You want to tell us some more about that, Ishmael?
Oh, right. For about 2 weeks now, I was going, you know, in my efforts to get the roundup and stuff, I was going around and talking to some elders, And I mean, it's something that I've observed as well, but since the pandemic has begun, there has been little to no support from government as it relates to civilians' health and their well-being. And you know, times gone by, maybe it has been over a decade ago, but this was something that would happen. Might not be often, but nevertheless it happened. And this thing I'm talking about is a health fair, health and wellness fair, where you would have, you know, health professionals come into the community and do the regular checkups, you know, the ECGs, the scans, whatever it is that they need for the day. If it is that they need diagnostics, whatever it is, it would be at their disposal for one full working day. While be it may on a Saturday or a weekday, whatever it is, it would be available to them at no cost to the community. And I mean, it's something that I've thought about, but then it morphed into something real when I realized that I am not the only person thinking about it. When you know, I hear regular citizens talking about what happened to health fairs. Why don't we see these things anymore? And I'm not just talking about Waterhouse. I'm talking about, you know, maybe this can happen in Waterhouse, and then, you know, we can expand to another community and another community.
All right, let us hear Patrick and Rattigan on that now. What do you guys think?
I think it's an excellent idea. To deal with the health issue, because health is something which affects everyone, right? Not just the elderly, but affects everyone. It shows more with the elderly, of course. But why it is important is because it's really most of the afflictions, most of the illnesses that we experience, right, are really lifestyle illnesses. And I would say that it's gonna take more than just a health day, right? And where they do diagnostics and all of that, because it means that there has to be some development of a community health program, right? And that is something which definitely is something we can work on.
I mean, but
right?
It's a start. Nevertheless, it's a start.
Oh yeah, but what I'm saying is that it's not gonna stop there. It has to be a whole program development, right? And that's something we can definitely start working on.
I went as far as mentioning to Michael that doctors won't be the issue, because I have a lot of friends that I used to go to school with that are doctors.
Let us give Rattigan a chance of hearing from him.
Yeah, let me just start off by saying that the Jamaican government received millions of dollars for COVID. And to this day, I don't think an accurate accounting has been given as to where those funds went. So that's number one. Again, it goes back to that corruption issue, right? And because people are not yelling and screaming from the mountaintops about it, then the money just go in a black hole and that's it. Some of that money should be used to finance the health fairs that Ishmael is talking about. The second thing is this. I agree wholeheartedly with it. And like you said, you started someplace and then you expanded to the communities within the constituency. And the reason why I agree with health fair is piggybacking on what Patrick says, is that I remember a doctor told me one time, he said that, you know, people have said that there's a high level of hypertension in the Black community. And he said, in my practice, I don't find it to be that. He said, here's what I've found. What I've found is that a Caucasian person will come to see me every year for an annual exam. And so if there's an issue, we can address it up front. A Black person, because of, again, Michael, going back to economics, they come when they have one foot on the grave and one on roller skates.
Yeah.
And so that's when it comes to him. So when I see a black person, that person,
Crisis.
yeah, that person already they're on the way to the next world, you know. So if we can get a health fair going where we can identify certain deficiencies with them health and whatever, and then take some corrective action, I'm all for that. And again, kudos
to Ishmael. This is something that I don't know if they, and I hate to, well, I don't hate to, I'm beating up on the MP. I don't know if he asked him to do this thing, but whether he did or not, Ishmael is doing it, right? And that's why I say, and I join Patrick wholeheartedly in saying that this is the kind of person that we should support. This is the kind of person I would like to see as the face of Jamaica. Somebody who's bright, intelligent, inquisitive, somebody who has the community's interest at heart. You know, not somebody who's there to line his pockets and run off and leave people, or come on the election time with a truck full of chickens or whatever them come with these days. You know.
So on that note, Ishmael, you have some work to do.
Okay.
You have to. No. Seriously, you have to put together.
Yeah, let's start with that some more.
Yeah, man, not a problem. Not a problem.
We know what are the different components and the costs involved.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Ratigan.
Oh my God! Before you go, let me just. There is a diaspora group that I'm a member of. It's Crime Intervention Task Force, and they just sent down a trailer load of stuff for vets, and they've sent down some other things. They're constantly providing support. They sent down a medical team or whatever. If you let me know, Ishmael, I can put you in touch with the guy who's in charge of that. He's a good friend of mine.
I love that. I love that. I love
Okay.
that. And it's funny you say that because what I found, and this is something that I've had conversations with, even with my MP, organizing monthly caregiving. And when I say caregiving, in terms of packages, because people hungry. Sometimes even myself too, hungry. But it may not be much, you know, a pound of pack rice, one sardine here and there. I mean, we're not saying we're feeding people, you know, but actively showing that we care goes a long way, you know. Remember me tell you, it goes a long way.
Well, here's my thing on that. This whole situation of gift giving is something that can be real deceptive. It's something that politicians use. It's something that people use in an opportunistic way, right? Give you something with the expectation to get something, right? We can't undertake to say, well, okay, we're gonna be gift givers because we really can't feed the people. We can provide them needs that way, right?
Right.
What we can do is this. We can definitely point a way forward in terms of how they can become self-sufficient, right? If we're talking about getting something started, that's gonna be sustaining, that's good. But to say, well, for them to rely on getting gifts in terms of food and so on, right? That's not gonna work.
On that note, gentlemen, we have covered a lot, from crime to community development and all of that stuff. And I want to thank Ratigan.
Yes.
And
Pleasure and privilege.
I hope this is just the first in many interaction, because seriously, our community need people like us. Waterhouse need people like us. We have to stand up for our community. We can't sit and wait on the politician. We cannot. A lot of people might, you know, they want to, but we all know the politicians. We all know them. They, from David Core come right down. They don't come to listen to us. They come into our community with what they think is best for us, not what we want.
We're not so sure that's even what they think, that it's what's best for us. But
yeah, so
with some idea.
So Ratigan, I hope this is the first of many interaction, you know, and your involvement, because I tell you, bro,
this is really a pleasure. Yeah.
When people hear you talk, them really don't understand. Them don't understand where you really come from. Said you're not a man who just start. I want to share something with them. I want to tell them that you're a man who used to get up 2 o'clock a morning time to go work with your father.
As you used to do the same thing.
Yeah! 2 o'clock when many people are asleep. We have to get to a man time to go work.
Yeah.
Go work with our father 2 o'clock in the morning. You understand me? So it's a long history,
Yeah.
a struggle and journey. And when you hear Rattigan talk and him passionate, you have to know Rattigan to understand where I come from. You know,
Yeah,
so it's
man.
not a man where you sort of shoot off of the hip or what have you.
We never tell,
Knowledgeable, have
No.
experience.
we never tell Ishmael and Patrick, but Michael's father and my father used to work at Purity Bakery. And so the van used to come at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday morning and pick them up. So Michael used to go with his father and I used to go with my father. So that's, and plus Michael's
Yeah, man,
brother.
we know them style, them, man.
Yeah.
We know
And
them
Michael,
style because
and
my
Michael,
father-
yeah, and Michael's
we know
brother and
them
I, we
from-
were in the same class.
I mean,
Yeah, Balmaji.
Yeah,
Yeah, the whole of
we know
them.
them style, man.
So,
You
brethren,
used to do it too. Because
Brethren.
my father is a driver, you know, so.
Okay, so you know,
Him
you know
deliver
where
goods,
to
so early morning, sometimes I don't want to go, but he wake me up.
yeah.
So
So,
we can
brethren,
understand.
let us keep the dialogue going, you know.
Well,
Yes.
Michael, you know
I
if
like-
you find
I
me.
like
So
the idea.
anytime, you know if you find me. So you can come anytime. This is, I tell you what, I've done lots and lots of interviews, but I particularly enjoy this one because
Yeah,
we are
are
talking
focused
about
on
our people.
our
We're talking
people.
about our people.
our
Yeah.
You know?
people.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we have another one where we definitely go why you're doing, right? Because we'll have a discussion on the Constitution, the Jamaican Constitution, and what's
When-
needed. So
whenever you're
definitely we want you in on that.
Whenever you're ready, I'm at your service, my brother.
All right. So on that note, I want to thank everyone, and the struggle continue. Okay.
Yeah.
To continue.
Yes, my brethren.
yes.
Rattigan, more hear the file, let me know. More hear the file.